Welcome, curious wanderers, to Skeleton Sounds, Ghosts of Theatreland.
So, what you've got to do is fill it in the gut there.
Do we have to do this? Feels completely ridiculous.
Trust me, it will be fun for the episode.
You get those toilets cleaned up?
Yes, but why did you make us do it on Enchilada night?
Could have been worse.
How?
Could have been curry night.
Hey, they haven't had a good scrub for a while. So let's leave the days of crapping and focus on tonight's episode, shall we? So, what's the subject you've chosen for tonight then? Seeing as you've both earned the choice in choosing what venue we'd cover.
Oh, right. So, we'd figured that tonight we'd look at...
So we're focusing on this venue then?
Well, I thought if any older generations are watching, that they'd enjoy something they're familiar with.
I chose it because it sounded creepy enough.
Very well. Let's not keep the audiences waiting. Welcome, my theatrical ghouls and macabre spectators. I'm Skeleton Sam, your host for this episode. We're going to be exploring the theatres around the UK that have gained a reputation in the housing of souls still clinging to this mortal coil. So, coming up tonight, from the requests by Andi and Mick, we'll be heading to the northeast of England, to the Sunderland Empire. One of the largest theatrical venues in the northeast of England, the Sunderland Empire can host up to a capacity of over 2,000 audiences and has staged a vast variety of productions since its opening in 1907. Of course, a venue this old and this large has its fair share of ghost stories. And our tale will be looking at not one, but a trio of potential paranormal residents of this great northern stage. These are the mysterious woman in white, a phantom violinist, and the famous comic actor and entertainer, Sid James. Andi?
Yes?
Wanna take this one?
Really? You let me narrate?
For now. Gonna grab a cup of tea.
Okay. Okay. Let's do this. If you can make Shakespeare cry, granted he did so because you accidentally burned down the Globe Theatre with that cannon, but you can manage to narrate the segment.
Might want to change the scenery back to Sunderland.
Oh, yeah. So, building from where we left off, our first ghost of the Sunderland Empire is believed to be that of Molly Moselle. Born Molly Burslim, she took the stage name of Molly Moselle after she at some point in her youth took an interest in the performing arts and became a professional dancer. However, like most people in theater, then and now, she couldn't always find work on stage as a performer, so more often she was forced to take on other work backstage. On one cold January night in 1949, she was an assistant stage manager on a touring production of Ivor Novello's The Dancing Years at Sunderland Empire. During this period, something had occurred which made her decide to leave her digs near the theatre during the dead of night, where she was never seen again. No one knows why Molly Moselle left her lodgings, and for a long time, the local authorities could find not a single lead to her whereabouts. However, 20 years after she vanished, and although a badly decomposed torso was found in the River Wear in the late 1960s, that was identified belonging to a woman. They could not prove it was Molly's. But since this time, a mysterious phantom resembling that of a woman began to be seen in various parts of the theater. She is linked to sound of doors banging on their own and leaving an ice-cold presence. An area she's known to haunt the most is the men's toilets of the dress circle. One account states a small boy and his family from London, who'd never been to Sunderland or the theater before, during a performance in 2016, told a member of staff that he'd just been talking to Molly in the men's toilets. The staff member told him no one called Molly was working that night. Everyone was too scared to go in and take a look for themselves, though we will never know for certain if this phantom is Molly Moselle. What is known is that if you feel an icy cold presence whilst on the loo, no, you might not be alone.
Very impressive.
Really? You think I did okay?
Of course. Now get out.
What?
Get out! It's my turn.
But you said I was doing a good job.
And now it's my turn.
But...
Get! That's better. So where were we? Ah, yes! You've heard about the mysterious woman in white. But of course, this phantom isn't the only ghostly resident of the Sunderland Empire. Some that are, well, you could say, well known to the British public. We'll get to that ghost soon. Poltergeist activity is regular occurrence, including the sound of a gramophone and noises of people moving around in the areas where there's not a single living soul. From research we've done, there's of course a couple of spirits that are said to haunt the venue. Those include a violinist called Johnston, who died at the theatre, who's been drifting in the dress circle, and that of music hall entertainer Vanessa Willie, who's believed to haunt the theatre's gallery. But of course, there is one other famous ghostly resident, someone that older generations will be heavily familiar with, a figure from mid-20th century British cinema who...
I told you, if the milk is near its expiry date, write it down on the whiteboard on the fridge. Why is there a piano on the floor?
You said to move it.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Well, I had nothing to do, so I thought I'd kill time.
That's not the only bloody thing you've nearly killed.
Cut to the commercial break now! So, while Andi is taking Mick for some medical attention, though one look at their appearance and the doctors might call a priest, we shall look at one final ghostly residence of the Sunderland Empire Theatre before concluding this chapter. The final individual believed to haunt this theatre is the spirit of the famous comic actor and entertainer Sid James. Born in the early part of the 20th century in South Africa as Solomon Joel Cohen, he originally trained for a career as an hairdresser. It was after serving in the armed forces during the Second World War that he began to pursue a new career as an actor, taking on the stage name Sid James. After a couple of years of working in repertory theatre, he gained roles in British films like Lavender Hill Mob and acting alongside comedians like Tony Hancock on radio and later television. But the work Sid is most remembered for are the Carry On films. These were a series of films which looked at satirical takes on various genres and aspects of the average Brit's life at the time. Sid James did 19 of these films and began doing several TV sitcoms in the early 1970s, taking him to the height of his fame and career. Now, on a cold, dark night in 1976, Sid James was starring in a brand new touring comedy called The Mating Season. It was the opening night at the Sunderland Empire Theatre. The show was on, audiences were laughing and engaged throughout, and one of the actors came on stage, did her lines, and was waiting for Sid James to respond. But his response didn't come. She looked and noticed his head had slumped in the chair he sat in, and his eyes had gone to the back of his head. The actor thought it was a gag, tried a couple of ad-libs, until she realised something was wrong and alerted the stage crew. The technical director, Mel James, appealed to the audience. "Is there a doctor in the house?" To which the audience, thinking it was a joke, laughed. That night, on his way to the hospital in an ambulance, Sid James died due to suffering a fatal heart attack on stage. Since his death, it would seem that Sid James' spirit continues to carry on haunting the venue. Staff and performers alike have felt his presence, heard his distinctive cackle echoing in the corridors, and the dressing room he used on the day he died is believed by the staff to be haunted by him. The most famous story of this dressing room occurred in 1989, when the English comedian Les Dawson was performing in that year's pantomime. During the run of the panto, Dawson was sitting before the dressing room mirror when he heard a rather familiar cackle to his left. He looked up and he saw the ghost reflected in the mirror and felt a stabbing pain in his chest. It was Sid James, dead for 13 years, and he looked ghastly. He wore, as Dawson described, some type of white shroud, and there was an aroma of whiskey hanging in the air. The apparition's face was pale and clammy looking, and the eyes were almost black and lifeless. The ghost shouted something obscene, and then vanished. Dawson almost died from shock and vowed he'd never work again at the Sunderland Empire, and he never did. Sid James' co-star from the Carry On films, the late Barbara Windsor, said that she would never perform at the Sunderland Empire Theatre because of this ghost story and of her complicated relationship with her former co-star. So, that was the Sunderland Empire Theatre, a vast and epic space that holds within it the souls of all those lost to time and those who gave their final bow. If you ever find yourself there in the near future, keep your eyes on the dress circle. Strange cold spots and distinctive laughs and noises when you are watching a show or working at the venue. Thanks for attending this episode of Ghosts of Theatreland. We hope you enjoyed, and as always, give us a follow and a like. So, stay tuned for next week, where we'll be heading down south to a little seaside town, or city as it's now designated, anyway, to a small theatre that has plenty of ghost stories.